I cannot talk about that. Do just want to say to Ben Shapiro, come out into the light. Let's do this debate. Stop sending interns to do your dirty work.
Candace, I cry every day.
That's absolutely crazy.
I've had 4 members of Congress say, I'll talk to my AIPAC person.
Also to blatant defamation. Andrew, he just lied. But you have to ask yourself, what gave Andrew the courage to lie so belligerently?
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. The moment that I've been waiting for a while now is upon us. Candace Owens has returned and her podcast is back on her new channel. And in the first episode, she is not holding back. She threw some combos at the Daily Wire and especially at Andrew Klavan, which we will get to. And I was wondering how she was going to do this. Does she go with another network like Valuetainment or the Tucker Carlson network, or does she go on her own? But she's decided to go on her own, and I think that's the best choice. And just for a bit of a recap, for those of you who have missed a few details, Candace was obviously let go by the Daily Wire, and this created a whole shitstorm where the Daily Wire basically went on a self-destruction mission by doing a bunch of slimy and dishonest things, and it's really backfired on them. And the start of this was the firing itself, because let's just face it, she was fired because she's critical of Israel. And when you work at the Daily Wire, you obviously can't have that opinion because Ben Shapiro and others there have very strong ties to Israel. And fair enough, if you have that ideological affiliation, I mean, just come out and say that. You don't have to dance around it and be dishonest. I mean, I personally wouldn't stop watching Michael Knowles or Matt Walsh or supporting their documentaries, for example, because I don't trust Ben Shapiro. And now furthermore to the specifics of why Candace was fired. In the weeks leading up to it, she was doing many different podcasts and she was asking all the wrong questions. She also was not totally and completely in favor of what Israel is doing in Gaza. And she made the unforgivable error of being sad for the children dying. Whew. You can't be doing that, Candace. I mean, heaven forbid you have a conscience. And this situation is something that's only intensified over the last few weeks and months, especially with the events of what's happening in Rafah. And also the blatant disregard that Benjamin Netanyahu has showed America and Joe Biden in just disregarding their orders to not go into Rafah. That tells you a lot. Anyways, toward the end, Candace also brought on Rabbi Barclay, who was lying about her, slandering her, defaming her, and she absolutely wiped the floor with him, totally exposing him. And honestly, it was just beautiful to watch.
I don't want to cut each other off, okay? Because clearly what we are having here is just a disagreement. There's no reason to get angry. Do you think think it is sad when an innocent Palestinian child dies?
Candace, I cry every day. And it's not just for Israel. And this is one of the things you clearly do not understand. The same way most don't, who are anti-Semites, who don't get it. I cry for what's going on in Israel. I cry just as much for what we are forced to do. Golda Meir had a great quote. She said that one day we may be able to forgive them for killing Israeli children. We will never be able to forgive them for making us kill their children.
She also made light work of
Rabbi Buttplug,
and he facilitated the rest of his own downfall with his bizarre and mentally unwell behavior on Twitter. And then the World War II takes, the tweets about the Christian genocide at the hands of the Bolsheviks, her take on the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Christ is King rhetoric, and many more based takes. And so with all this in mind, and there's even more context to this story, but I'm not going to belabor it, Candace was fired from the Daily Wire, and it was terrible PR for them. And then this culminated in Ben Shapiro accepting a debate with Candace, which honestly was on the nose from day one. And it just looked too good to be true, because I think that we all kind of know what would happen if Candace and Ben sat face to face and did a live debate. Candace is not a college student, and I don't think it would have gone well for Ben. And then the expected happened, and it all fell through because the Daily Wire set a deadline of 5 p.m. Monday in Nashville, knowing good and well that Candace was actually in Europe. And I guess this was maybe their way of pretending that Candace didn't want to do the debate and Ben did. I don't know, but another L for the Daily Wire. And then the plot just thickened even more, with it coming out through a leak on Twitter that Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire had actually put a gag order on Candace.
It's so cool seeing you in person. I'm such a huge fan.
You're very sweet.
So my question is, after being let go from the Daily Wire and being able to speak firsthand, do you think that the Daily Wire is complicit in censorship of certain people/topics similar to that of left-wing institutions?
I cannot talk about that. Thanks, everyone!
Perhaps she was just spitting too many facts. They were getting a little bit nervous and they decided that the best thing to do would be to gag her so that she couldn't defend herself. Your conservative alternative media free speech champions, ladies and gentlemen. And then after a few-week hiatus where Candace would occasionally sprinkle us with a few little crumbs and leave us wanting, she finally made her return to the Turning Point USA Women's Conference, a place where a bunch of women all get together and share recipes with each other. And here she revealed another very slimy trick that Ben tried to play on her. But just quick side note, guys, shout out to Charlie Kirk for continuing to stand by Candace Owens' side. I mean, so many have turned on her, and the price for standing by Candace during this time as a conservative is massive. And Charlie would have definitely pissed a few people off here. I mean, he would hurt his bottom line. He would turn off big donors just because he continues to have Candace at these events now that she's been labeled an anti-Semite by the Jewish lobby. But he didn't turn his back on his friend, which is a quality that I deeply admire. So well done, Charlie, and keep it up. So here's the clip.
The last thing that I am going to say, strangely, this is such a crazy story, but as I was headed in here, I got a frantic call from somebody. They did. They called me and they said, Candace, something very weird is happening. The Daily Wire has sent somebody secretly to record you, an intern, a PR intern, to secretly record you, to catch you in a bad moment, in a bad light. And I think that intern's name, no, to be fair, it is never the fault of a person when their employer is sending them to do something that isn't good, but I would really love it if Ariana stood up. Yeah. Okay, maybe that's a little too intimidating for you too, but apparently she got an email at 10 p.m., hopped on a plane, is pretending to be a student. And so I do just want to say to Ben Shapiro,
just before we get to the next bit, guys, if you don't mind quickly chucking a like on this video to help me with the algorithms, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, that would be fantastic. And also, if you like this sort of video where I keep you up to date with the news, let me know in the comments. Back to you.
Enough. Come out into the light. Really, come on. Let's do this debate. Stop sending interns to do your dirty work. I don't bite. I'm down for the debate. Charlie Kirk says he will fly you out. He will fly you out next week to Detroit, and we can do the debate on his stage. Thank you, Turning Point USA. Let's take some questions.
So after this, Candace followed up with a few tweets. She said, utterly bizarre but true, confirmed with Turning Point USA. Her name is Karina, and she's a PR intern who received a last-minute phone call last night, plus a threat to tell nobody that she was being sent. When on first flight this morning, Turning Point clocked her as she checked in. Grateful so many Christians are looking out for me and put me on alert. Weird stuff. She also said, I had my lawyer reach out immediately. What happened yesterday at TPUSA was disturbing to say the least. Are people being sent to follow me privately as well? Need to understand the extent to what they have done to others to ensure my children are safe. I am not the mother to play with. So this is hard to comprehend as somebody who's been such a big fan of the Daily Wire for years and somebody who still watches them regularly. I mean, I love the What is a Woman documentary and watch Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh, as I said, all the time. It's just crazy to think that they have employed the same tactics as the ADL, for example. I mean, these are slimy, smearing tactics where they lie about people and try and defame them and try and ruin their reputation. and sending somebody in to try and record Candace in a bad moment. It's outrageous stuff and totally antithetical to the values that they espouse in terms of free speech and open debate and dialogue and being against cancel culture. And I don't really see a way back for them in terms of the people that they've disenfranchised unless they do a public debate with Candace and also apologize to her for the mistreatment. But I don't see that happen. I mean, the Daily Wire will be fine. They're very good business people. They have a huge audience. They're very popular, so not to worry about them. But however, what I do think that this represents is a fork in the road in terms of conservative thought and conservative alternative media more specifically. And it's not like you have to pick a side. You can still like them both, but there's definitely a divergence of thought happening here in terms of the Candace and the Tuckers of the world. I mean, people that are genuinely putting America and Christ first and questioning Israel's massive influence on the United States, and not just being sycophants and towing the party line, cheering the endless wars and celebrating the fact that US tax dollars are being sent to said wars. And then you have the more neocon side of politics who thinks that America should be the world police, and they will always find a way to justify these wars. And in many cases, they're not Christians. And if they are, they aren't as outspoken about it, and they would definitely never criticize Israel. And we saw a great example of this divergence of thought this week with Tucker Carlson interviewing Thomas Massie, a US senator, who dropped some bombs on Tucker about the way that the Israel lobby works in Washington. And guys, even if you are somebody who is totally pro-Israel and you consider yourself a conservative, it's your perspective. But I don't see how you can look at this clip, for example, and look at the facts of how these things work, read The Israel Lobby by John Mearsheimer, and not be at least a little bit alarmed about the amount of influence that a foreign nation has over the opinions and the policies of politicians in Washington, the center of the so-called free world, the very place where decisions are made. Foreign policy decisions, for example, that affect the rest of the world greatly. I mean, these are the people that ultimately decide where your taxpayer dollars get sent. So, I mean, let's run the clip.
They're not registered.
Is there any other Republican who has your views on this?
Well, I have Republicans who come to me on the floor and say, I wish I could vote with you today. Yours is the right vote, but I would just take too much flack back home. And I have Republicans who come to me and say, that's wrong what AIPAC is doing to you. Let me talk to my AIPAC person. By the way, everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What does that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are, you know, firmly embedded in AIPAC. And
every member has something like this?
I don't know how it works on the Democrat side, but that's how it works on the Republican side. And when they come to DC, you go have lunch with them, and they've got your cell number, and you have conversations with them. So I've had
that's absolutely crazy.
I've had 4 members of Congress say, I'll talk to my AIPAC person. And it's literally what we call them, my AIPAC guy. I'll talk to my AIPAC guy and see if I can get him to, you know, dial those ads back.
Why have I never heard this before?
It doesn't benefit anybody. Why would they want to tell their constituents that they've basically got a buddy system with somebody who's representing a foreign country? It doesn't benefit the congressman for people to know that, so they're not going to tell you that.
Have you seen any other country do anything like this? Like
no.
Russia obviously determines the outcome of our elections. We keep hearing that. Does anyone have a Putin guy that they talk to?
Not only do they not have a Putin guy, look, they don't have a Britain guy. They don't have an Australian guy. They don't have a Germany dude. Like, it's the only country that does this, that has somebody that, like, uniformly, I guarantee there's some spreadsheet at AIPAC where you know, the AIPAC dude who's matched up with the congressman is there, and then all the congressman's votes on the issue. Oh, has the congressman been to Israel? They pay for trips for congressmen and their spouses to go to Israel. I'm not the only Republican who hasn't taken the AIPAC trip to Israel, but I'm probably one of a dozen that hasn't taken that trip, and the other ones just haven't got around to it.
So unless Thomas Massie is completely lying through his teeth there, and the evidence suggests that he's not, then that means that Washington is more or less controlled by a foreign state, and that's not cool. But of course, form your own opinions of it, make of it what you will. And the last news of the day, Candace is obviously back with her podcast today. And I have a feeling that it's going to be better than ever. She is officially off the leash. She can have any guests on that she wants. She can debate anybody who she wants. She can talk about any topics that she wants. And in episode 1, she really didn't hold back. So let's have a look at a few quick highlights.
I think it's the right thing professionally not to speak about why you are splitting or what's happened. But I was shocked, very shocked, and I'm sure you were shocked as well, when no sooner was the split announced than Andrew Klavan just was like, hey, it's me, I pick myself. I'm gonna be her crazy ex-boyfriend. It's like a bizarre tour he went on. He felt like it was his duty, or maybe somebody knighted him and said, you know what, Andrew Klavan, this is your duty to go around and to just smear Candace Owens. Say whatever it is that you want about her. Just a few weeks before this, Andrew Klavan was sitting across from me on backstage asking about my kids, asking us how I was doing, talking to him about the fact that I had had a surgery. I had been walking around in a boot just a little prior to that because I had a surgery back in December. And I think that that is just, I don't know, I don't even want to say it's strange, more than strange. I think it's dishonorable. And what he said about me, and the reason why I'm responding forcefully, is because it rose to a level not just of tremendous dishonor to him as an individual, but also to blatant defamation. Andrew, he just lied. I know, it was just such a weird thing for me to watch. He was lying with such gumption.
The Daily Wire parted ways with Candace Owens, and part of it was things that she was saying that we felt were strongly anti-Semitic. And she was doing it in such a way that it was kind of hard to pin down. So I was trying to show where these things happen.
Strongly anti-Semitic, but in a way that was difficult to catch. So what we're veering into here now, obviously, is just like Black Lives Matter, giving you a definition of racism. It's in a way that only people with expert eyes can see it. Otherwise, he would just throw up a clip and be like, wow, look at this crazy thing Candace said, how anti-Semitic. This guy's really a racist. He's just like dropping N-bombs. Like, obviously, this person is extremely racist. But when you get to this sort of like, it was done in a way, you just know that it doesn't exist. That they're just going to have to make it up. They got to Jussie Smollett it. You know what I mean? You just got to make it up. And guess what? Andrew does just that. He jumps into a Hitler hoax.
But when you start saying things like some of those books Hitler burned weren't so bad, you know, I was shocked. This is something Candace actually said. I was surprised to learn that the books Hitler was burning, or the Nazis were burning, they weren't good books. They were bad books. They were socialist books.
Andrew, my friend, Andrew, my former colleague, I just don't know how you can do that. Am I broken? Like, I don't have the ability to lie like that. How could you believe that I got on my platform and I was just like, yeah, no, Adolf Hitler, like when he was burning books, it was great. I just thought it would be totally fine for me to do that. Of course, that's not what happened at all. Actually, I wasn't even talking about Adolf Hitler. It was an episode that I was doing on psychology, and I was talking about how a lot of the people that have brought forth modern ideas of psychology were perverts. And I listed 3 Christians among those psychologists. And the psychologist he is referring to is Magnus Hirschfeld. He happens to be Jewish, but that wasn't important to me. I was just talking about psychology. It was no more important than the Christians that I had mentioned on that episode. Didn't need to mention that they were Christian, just the fact that they were perverts. And so what he's doing here is he's actually defending a pervert, Magnus Hirschfeld, by pretending that he is Adolf Hitler and that I said, oh my gosh, it's so great that his books were burned. No, I just introduced a fact. An actual fact that lives on the Holocaust Museum website. It's a fact that Magnus Hirschfeld's Sex Institute was burned to the ground by student protesters. Literal fact from the Holocaust Museum website. And here's what I actually said thereafter. In my view, he's a pervert. Doesn't mean that his library or his institute should have been burned down. There's no excuse for burning down an institute. There it is, you guys. Does that sound like someone who's supporting the burning of books in any capacity? No. And that's why he never showed the clip. In the scheme of all of this, I can't even be that upset with Andrew because I think he attacked himself in the process. He showed his own character. As he was trying to attack mine, he revealed his own character. But you have to ask yourself, what gave Andrew the courage to lie so belligerently? Other than the fact that, by the way, the person in charge of fact-checking at the Daily Wire, the general counsel, is his son-in-law. So I think that probably helped it get through the fact checks. He's married to Andrew's son. But what else gave him the courage? Well, what was it that Kanye was saying about the contracts? He must have known that I couldn't reply. He must have felt comfortable knowing that I could not say anything to defend my own name and my own honor, but he tripped into something different when he started lying on me in a way that rose to the level of defamation. And so I can defend myself against you, Andrew. And this is just the beginning. This is just the first episode. We are just getting started. Do not be the last person, of course, to join Club Candace. By the way, we're also selling signed ones. The first one that I signed is going to be sent to Andrew Klavan so he can capture his own woke right tears. I want to make sure he has something that will keep them cold, that will keep them hot. I don't know if they run hot or cold. I don't know what's motivating Andrew Klavan, but I do know that he is going to get one of the signed mugs, which means that there's not going to be much left because that is obviously limited. And again, these will be discontinued every time we hit the next 1 million followers. You got to catch them all like Pokemon. So head to clubcandace.com if you are looking for a meaningful way to support my independent work. You guys, I love you all. I got to tell you, when I found out that my show was canceled, I was really sad. Then I remembered, wait a minute. I am Candace. I am the show. These are my people. You can't cancel Candace, and nobody knows that better than my great friend and colleague, Ben Shapiro. I'll see you guys next time.
So it's good to see Candace back defending herself. Still looks cheerful, still looks happy after everything that she's been through. And honestly, I love it when people have these dramas and conflicts, but then they end up just trolling the person. I do think that that is the best way to do things. If you can end up having the last laugh, then you win. And also, you're just going to be living rent-free in everyone's head while you're just happy. So obviously looking forward to seeing what's next. I have a feeling that this is definitely not the end of this one. And also that there'll be some great Candace Owens debates to cover on the channel in the near future. So guys, it's enough from me today. If you would like to find my links, you can hit that link below. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, right here. If you'd like to watch another one, right here. Next time, I'm Jake, RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.